Hello all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the technical update briefing for Power Platform and Dynamics 365 for August 2021. This session is hosted by a team of 4 people. On the customer engagement app side, we have Ryan Anderson, Senior Customer Engineer for Power Platform and Dynamics 365, who will be doing the presentation. And myself, Adan Sampat, again, Senior Customer Engineer for Power Platform and Dynamics 365. I'll be the moderator. And myself, along with Brent, will be answering questions on the chat. Brent?
And thanks everyone. On the finance and operations side, my name is Brent Sokolowski. I'll be your moderator today. And our presenter is Kenneth Kildegard, who is a senior customer engineer for finance and operations. And with that, I will send you over to Ryan to get us started.
All right, thanks, Brent, and welcome everyone. We'll get started with our content here and start with our featured news. One other quick note is that this slide deck is available out on our blog article. So if you want to download that after the fact, you're able to do that there with the slide deck in the PDF format there. So getting started, the first topic is around our on-demand events, and I think maybe we talked about this before in previous updates, but just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of all the great content that is available from our events in the past. And all that content in on-demand fashion. So you can find a lot of information from those different events like Microsoft Build, and the BizApps sessions, Microsoft Ignite. So both Dynamics and 365 and Power Platform sessions out there. A lot of information, obviously. Other technologies are covered in those events as well, but there's some good links there to get those on-demand sessions. So make sure you're taking advantage of everything out there that's free information in an on-demand fashion. So jumping into the customer engagement apps side of things. First one, we wanted to make sure everyone was aware that the 2021 release Wave 2 is now available for Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. This is our typical release waves. This is the second one of the year. Typically there's 2 each year, the first one being in April, and now the second one coming in October. One thing to keep in mind is if you're looking at these release plans, there are separate release plans for Dynamics 365 and Power Platform. So if you're looking for a specific feature, maybe you don't see it in one of those release plans, make sure you're reviewing both of those. And they are, you can download that in PDF format. It's all available on the doc site in different articles. This was first published in July, on July 14th, I believe, with the release Wave 2 updates. I think this was actually just updated earlier this week with some updates there. So there's actually a page out there that shows, the things that were updated even after the release Wave 2 update was released. So make sure you're keeping track of that. Early access for testing purposes was available as of the 1st of August. So you can actually turn on release Wave 2 in your test environments to start seeing some of this new capabilities. And then general availability, of course, is October 1st with those. There'll be rolling deployments of that based on region. So I believe if you're in North America, that won't actually be rolled out automatically until October 22nd, I believe. But you do have the option to turn that on ahead of time, of course. So we'll talk a little bit more about some of the updates and some of that, just the overall process in a later slide, but just know that information is available now, and you can actually start testing in your test environments. In a similar vein here, PowerOps portals, the release wave is also available. Our release wave 2 plan is also available for portals. And so again, this is in October, although it's for features that are planned for release from between October and all the way through March of next year. So lots of new capabilities that are being added here. On the portal side, there was a specific focus more on pro development. So there are a lot of good features on that side of things. Some of those, there's some, and also some of the core platform stuff like that relevant search integration, which is a great feature. This is a good example of even though this is part of Release Wave 2, it's a public preview that's actually going to be available in October, and so you can look at the Release Wave 2 plan site for kind of the release plan on some of these things. So sometimes it's a public preview, sometimes it's GA. So it just depends on the feature. And this goes to, for Dynamics and Power Platform and portals as well. So there's some good documentation out there around that about what is actually being released at what times. There's also good information as far as how these different features are released, whether it's something that's enabled automatically or whether it's something that, say, an admin has to go turn on. So lots of good information out there about that. There are, again, this is for features that are planned for release all the way through March of next year. So some of the things that are available on the portal side, there's a Portal's Web API support for Microsoft Dataverse custom actions. That's something that's right now scheduled to be available. However, something like the support for a CI and CD of Portal's configuration, that might not be ready until January of 2022, but it's just included in this Release Wave 2 plan. So make sure you're taking a look at those plans and the dates on when things will be available. Next up is Microsoft Teams with Dynamics 365. So this is an announcement we made where we're activating the flow of work in Microsoft Teams with Dynamics 365 at no additional cost. So this gives users the ability to interact with Dynamics data right through Teams. So if they already have a Teams license, they can start interacting with some of that Dynamics 365 data. So there might be times when maybe a user doesn't have full direct access to Dynamics, but they can get to it through Teams. Lots of different scenarios here, like a service engineer can enable an agent to fix a customer issue by adding notes with troubleshooting steps to a customer service case record. A finance team can streamline order fulfillment, sharing purchase orders and payment details with their counterparts in sales. A field technician can notify sales teams about products nearing end of life, so the sales team can proactively reach out with replacement options. So lots of good scenarios here when using Dynamics from within Microsoft Teams. So there's a good article there to take a look at more information around that. Next up in Dynamics is the advanced lookup experience, and this is with model-driven Power Apps. So we're announcing here advanced lookup, which is a set of usability enhancements to help you explore and find data more easily. So as you know, lookups are very important within model-driven apps and Dynamics 365. So this adds some additional functionality around that, where you're able to view more columns when looking up a record. You can see results more quickly with that type ahead search. You can explore data within the advanced lookup without losing context. Apply data filters more easily, and also look up multiple records in fewer clicks. So lots of good functionality coming here. This is something that you do need to go enable. So if you're interested in this functionality, which I think probably most users would be, as an administrator, you do need to go enable that advanced lookup experience, and that's just through a feature setting in the Power Platform Admin Center. Also, lots of good documentation out there about how this works, and more information. Next up is multi-table lookups, and this is a preview feature right now. But multi-table lookups allow the creation of a lookup in one table that looks up records in multiple other tables at once. So it provides greater flexibility in retrieving that data. So this is a kind of a long-awaited feature, but as an example, say you were maybe had functionality where you needed to check out media to users, and maybe had different media, say like books, audio offerings, video offerings. So rather than have to create a separate lookup for each one of those things, with this you can create that one lookup that searches across multiple tables at once. So you could search your books, audio, and video offerings all at the same time, rather than have to make separate searches there. It is a preview right now, like I mentioned. Right now, it's actually API only, so the lookups can be constructed and managed through API. Model-driven apps currently provide the best experience with the lookups, and then so Maker UI support for creation and management is coming soon, and then improved Canvas app support is planned for the future as well. So right now it's a preview, API only, but that UI support will be coming soon with this. Performance insights for model-driven apps. This is a feature that you can find within the Maker Maker Admin Center or Maker Portal. So for your model-driven apps, if you take a look at the options for each one of those, there's one that'll it'll show, like in the screenshot there, look like performance. And so what this does is it takes some of the raw telemetry data that we have available for your model-driven app, and it gives you a set of work items that can help improve the performance of that app. And so this is something that should be available now, and you can take a look at that, and it'll give you kind of that set of recommendations related to the performance of that model-driven app. And that could be, a Dynamics app or other, but you can get that set of recommendations on what things could help improve the performance of the app overall. And so this is something that the data is available for, and now it's surfaced within that portal, so you can get some insights in that and see what kind of improvements you can make to your model-driven apps. All right, custom pages. We announced the public preview of custom pages, and what this is kind of the convergence of model-driven apps and Canvas apps into kind of that single Power App. So rather than using HTML web resources, we recommend using these custom pages to build, say, the Canvas apps into your model-driven apps. This doesn't change the support for the standalone Canvas app, but it enables the new Power App converging the model and Canvas. So if you have a scenario where you want to embed that Canvas app into the model-driven app, you can use these custom pages in order to do that. And this one again is in public preview right now. All right. Wanted to announce the command designer with PowerFX preview. So for the first time ever, you can customize command bars in model-driven apps without code. And so we're introducing this. This was formerly known as the ribbon. if you've been using Dynamics for a while. So it's a complete reimagination of commanding, basically, for model-driven apps. So you can use this command designer to help build that that command bar with no or low code, and you can use PowerFX for expressing kind of that low code logic in those in those model-driven apps with this. And again, more information there in the articles. Okay. Wanted to mention, as we usually do, some of the deprecations. There's a great article that is updated with deprecations that you should kind of keep reviewing to make sure you're aware of what's coming. The ones that are listed here are just some of what's out there, but we wanted to mention the attachment management add-on for Dynamics 365 is deprecated. And so if you've used that, and if you've moved some of those attachments over to Azure Blob Storage, there is an automated process that's happening that will update some of that for you. But just know that that add-on is deprecated. Skype integration is deprecated with customer app and our customer engagement apps, and that's Skype for Business is deprecated itself. So we recommend moving over to Teams. IE11 support for Dynamics and Power Platform is deprecated as of August. The next one there is around the mobile offline. So the analyze section of mobile offline is deprecated. So if you're using mobile offline, take a look at that. That analyze report from that is used to identify components that aren't available when you're working in offline mode. But that particular section is now deprecated. A couple things coming in the October, the Wave 2 release, the low density headers and model driven apps are not supported any longer. And then the forum footers also won't be supported after that Wave 2 release. And then finally, some of the client APIs are deprecated. That's not until April of next year, of 2022, but that client global context client API is deprecated, and there'll be more information coming there about replacements for that and guidance around how to manage that should be available by December of this year. All right, so that covers the customer engagement side of things. I'll turn it over to Kenneth on the finance and ops.
Okay, thank you, Ryan, and hello everybody. I'm Kenneth Kildegaard. So I'll be presenting the finance operation content on this call. So we'll start by talking about the at-scale units. Just before I do that, if you notice on the slide here, I've actually added up on the right-hand corner, you can see the public preview and the general availability. So that's from those release notes that Ryan talked about a moment before. So it kind of shows you the date for where the public preview is expected and the GA date as well. When you have that, when you see that little green check mark, that means that it actually has been released to public preview at this time, which is the case here. So the at-scale units are basically components that allows some part of functionality of the app to run on-premise on hardware that's then located on your own facilities, and I mean thereby increase the resilience and critical operation in your supply chain. So which means that, for example, if you're temporarily disconnected from the internet, it will actually continue to run its configured workloads locally in a manufacturing facility or distribution center or wherever you have that set up locally. So we started with this technology, I think, on the commerce platform, and we've now, I mean, it's obvious that from a retail perspective, you have many businesses that if they don't have internet connect, they still need to be able to operate, right? But that's also the case in many cases for warehouse operations and manufacturing operations. So most of those big warehouse operations, they are 24/7, right? And even though if there is a glitch with the internet, they need to be able to operate 24/7 in those facilities. So in order to facilitate that, we now also introduce EdgeScale units for our warehouse operations and our manufacturing operations. So I'll talk to you a little bit more in detail of some of those processes. So Ryan, if you can go next slide, please. So you can see in this one where we're talking about the enhanced warehouse execution workloads on scale units. It's a little bit, you can see it hasn't reached public preview yet. We are expecting December 21 for that. But if you look at the image there, it kind of gives you an impression of what lives in the hub, which is in our Azure Software Center, and what part of the process can be handled through the scale unit, which can be facilitated on site on your manufacturing or warehouse facility. So this is the warehouse workloads. So you can see if you can look just below the take orders there, then from there you can release an order, for example, to the warehouse, whereafter the warehouse workers will start creating the shipment. They will actually start processing, look at with their mobile scanners and so on. So there'll be wave processing, load creation, and then that creates works that have the warehouse workers out and pick all the items that need to be picked for the various orders, and then put them somewhere in your outbound docks or where it may be. But you can see on the ship process there, you can then have ship confirm, you can send advanced shipping notices, you can generate bill of lading. All that you can do locally. So even though you're disconnected from the internet, for example, you can still run that those critical warehouse processes using the scale unit feature. You can see there's even a provisional packing slip that you can run. The financial part of the packing slip aspect, they'll be updated once you connect it to the hub again, as you can see. So that's just to show you an illustration of what part of the warehouse processes that can be handled by the scale unit. Next slide, please. So the same goes for the production floor execution interface. So if you think about it in more in a manufacturing environment, not so much from the warehouse processing, you have the same. You can see you'll create the production orders from your hub environment, but once it's released to the floor, you can do all your raw material picking and all your execution functions for the workers, the clock in and out and starting of jobs and so on, until you're ready to the product is finished and you can report it as finished, and then you can create put away work that can then, where the warehouse process then will take over to put that away and into a finished good inventory somewhere. So that whole production process is now then available on the scale unit as a scale unit feature as well. And you can see the public preview here is more likely the November 2021. So we aim to. There's a ton of features on the release 2, right? So we're gonna in next couple of sessions we'll talk more about those. We kind of aim to talk about the features that have either been pre-released or are closer sometime in autumn to be released, right? So we try to talk about the most relevant features that are closest to the pre-release. Okay, next slide, please. Some other features here is for the sign-in for production floor workers, where we are now introducing face recognition. So you can then see users of the production floor execution interface and users of the time and attention functionality can now sign in and use face recognition instead of having to do scanning or keying in a personal badge ID as you had to do previously. So that's a much more streamlined process to sign in your workstations. Yep. Next slide, please. Yep. So this is also a new big feature that's the tax calculation services. So you can see it's already now in public preview. So something that you can already now go and take a look at. I believe it has been pre-released to about 6 or 7 countries, but you can see we provide links there to the tax calculation services. So you can look at that. But one of those countries are the US. So it's something that you can have a look at right now. And you can see what that does is a fully integrated out of the box tax calculation that allows you to automate and standardize tax determination and calculation across countries and regions. You can use configurable tax determination matrix and flexible calculation designer to configure and execute complex tax determination rules and calculation by using formulas and conditions. And you can simplify compliance maintenance for local tax regulations. I think I have another slide here on the tax calculation. If you can drop to the next slide, Ryan. Yep, and you can see it also. So it has out-of-the-box integration with Dynamics 365 Finance and supply chain management, and it gives you some no-code, low-code configurations through the Regulatory Configuration Service or the RCS. Just a little brief there on the RCS is a quick note on that. That's the Regulatory Configuration Service, or RCS. It's kind of a standalone designer and a lifecycle management service for globalization functionality. So it's kind of let your stakeholders extend and customize key globalization areas such as tax, electronic invoicing, regulatory reporting, banking and business documents, and so on, without having to involve developers. But as you can see there from the screenshot that I had there, it's a separate interface, right, than the F&O that you can stand up. And if you look at some of the features there, you can see some of those globalization features you can press on there. In there, you can then enable the tax calculation service. But I've added there's a link there that kind of take you through those steps on get started with the tax calculations. So one of those steps, it's getting, if you're not already familiar with RCS, to get that up and running. And then you have to enable the tax calculation service through the RCS app there. So that's a whole set of steps there, but you can go click on that, get started with tax calculation if that's something you want to go and explore, because it's available now if you have access to a pre-release environment. Okay, next slide, please. Right, so the next one here is create collections activity based on payment predictions. So you can see that's public preview. It says August 2021. We don't have the checkbox yet. So I haven't checked the last week or two whether it has been added, but something you may want to do. But the customer payment predictions predict the likelihood that a customer invoice will be paid on time, late, or very late by assigning a percentage to each invoice. So there are basically 3 payment probability that it evaluates. So that's the probability of payment being made on time. There's the probability of payment being made late, and the probability of payment being made very late. So you can see there over to the right, I just added a screenshot from an image there where it shows whether, you know, the probability of payment predictions of being paid on time and so on. And then you can actually set a threshold, so you can set activity based on, you know, if, for example, customers where the prediction that they pay late for 60% is 60% more, then you can say, I want to create certain collection activities towards these customers proactively, kind of say. So you can see it allows you just to be much more have much more timely actions towards those customers where late payment are expected. Just in general, I want to say for the credit, for those of you that are not using the credit and credit management and collection facilities, it's an area where we have added a ton of functionality the last couple of years. We actually purchased an ISV solution for the credit management for about probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. And so there's a lot of functionality that has been added in those areas, and a really great credit and collection workspace inside with Power BI workspace that you can also go take a look at. So if you haven't, and this is something that's relevant for your business, then go take a look at that. Let's take next slide, please. Yep. So this is just, you can see the change data in Azure Data Lake. It's already in public preview since April 30. And it's basically a change feed is an immutable, which means never modified transaction log of all data changes in finance and operation apps. So the change feed data is now available in customer data lakes, and it provides a chronological log of all data changes within finance and operation apps. So those change logs are now available to flow to the to export to Data Lake. Right. Next slide, please. And now we are going to product updates, and I'll take it over to you, Ryan.
All right, thanks, Kenneth. So first, just wanted to cover a little bit about understanding updates. Like mentioned before, there's usually 2 release waves during the year. We're coming up on release wave 2 for 2021. And so there's a lot of good information again out there on these different release waves, what's in them, the timing of them, all that good stuff. There's also information on the general availability deployment, the release schedule. So this is kind of across, like I mentioned before, this is kind of across all the different products, both Dynamics, Power Platform, like I mentioned before, portals. So just to make sure you understand, how these updates work, how the release waves work, and then keep track of what should be coming into your environment. And a little more information on specific to the customer engagement updates. In addition to those release waves, which come twice a year, there's also service updates that come into those environments, and typically those are a weekly update, although not always. And that's something that just gets automatically applied to your environment. Again, there's good information available on all these different updates. There's an article that's updated every Tuesday to indicate the current version and next version for each region. You can go out and see, what version is applied. You can see what updates, changes are in each one of those versions, and get information on each one of those. Again, those are separate from the release wave deployments. This is something that's continuous delivery to all the different environments. If you want to find out which version your organization has applied, you can just go into Dynamics or your app, look at the gear icon and click about, and that'll give you the version. You can and then you can match that up with the online article to see what version you're on and what's a part of those versions. On the on-prem side, there are there's updates available, still for Dynamics 365 on-prem for the version 9.x. The latest is the 9.1.3.11. That was the August release for the on-prem update. And then for the 8.2 version, that one is now out of mainstream support. So we're seeing fewer updates. The only updates that would come now would be anything on the security or data damaging side. So the last update there was back in April. 8.2.28.11, and so that's the latest one for 8.2. On the Power Apps portal side, again, Release Wave 2 is coming on Power Apps portals. However, on the portal's version updates, the latest version there is the 9.3.7 and is available. On the portal side, there's the portal website host, and then there's the portal solution. The kind of two different parts of that. The portal website host is updated automatically to the latest version. That's typically happens on a monthly basis. On the portal solutions, that is something that would be updated by an admin on the customer side, and so that's all available through the Power Platform Admin Center, and so you can apply those solutions there. For those solutions, we obviously recommend that you update those solution packages during off-peak hours. With an update like that, it can affect the environment. So we recommend those off-peak hours. All the new information about those updates you can find out in the Office 365 Message Center or the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. There'll be release notifications there, which include the portal URL and date. Those are sent at least 2 to 5 business days ahead of those releases, and so you can find more information there. You can test those updates early, and you can opt in on your test or development portal instances to have those updates applied early there, so you can make sure to test those before they get rolled into production. Okay, on the Power Automate desktop side, latest update there was from July. And those updates will continue. Some of the latest features there, silent registration for machines, automatic detection of Windows proxy settings, ability to remove unused UI elements. A couple other ones are introduction of new action, take screenshot of UI element, and then also an improvement of the action, convert date time to text. So again, there's a link there where you can take a look at all the updates that are in that July 2021 update. All right, Kenneth, back over to you on the finance and ops side.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. So this is just a slide that will show you which version that we are currently in GA. That's the 10.0.20, and you can see the one that we have in Preview Early Access Program, or PEAP, is the 10.0.21. But it's just a link where you can go and see, current versions and the next release schedule. Okay, next slide, please. This is just a link also just to a nice blog article that shows you that if you want to sign up for PEAP or the Preview Early Access Program, then how to do that, and kind of the steps of how to set the PEAP, get an environment of the early preview up and running in your environment in LCS. So next slide, please. Yep. Also, just a few mention of deprecations. Some of these I think we talked about on last session. On the supply chain, you can see the Internet Explorer 11, where we are recommending using Microsoft Edge instead. Visual Studio 2015. And we have some areas in the supply chain management. So there's the job card device, there's the warehouse app. The older warehouse app has been replaced with the new warehouse app, and I did add the master planning engine, the built-in supply chain management master planning engine is being deprecated by April 1, 2022. So that's one. If you are using master planning and you've been running 2012 and you're using the built-in, then you have to go look for using the planning engine as a service that's connected to FNO. So just some mention there. Okay, next slide, please. Yep. So this one is about Power Platform convergence with FNO apps. So you can see this is already in public preview from June 30th. So starting with version 10.0.20. So you have some with regards to virtual entities and dual write. You have that the Power Platform is now pre-connected to enable virtual entities. You could enable virtual entities before, but now it's simply just pre-connected, which allow for some easier setup and configuration of that. Same with dual write setup is now initiated from Lifecycle Services. So it's just allow for easier setup and configuration of those two items there. Also business events. So now when business events happens in FNO, the event can be available in Dataverse as well. So as you know, some of the endpoints could be Power Automate, for example, but now the endpoint can also be Dataverse, can subscribe to those business events from FNO. Same with the COD events. Now you can subscribe to create, update, and delete events on FNO OData enable entities. So then the COD events will be exposed via virtual entities in Dataverse. Okay, next slide, please. Also, just update on Visual Studio 2019 is expected to be supported supported version for FNO in November 2021 is the expected public preview version for that. You can see the Visual Studio 2015 was deprecated with 10.0.17. The Visual Studio 2017 is the currently supported version for FNO, and then the Visual Studio 2019 support is coming soon, or will have public preview in November 2021. Okay, next slide, please. So this is just an if you're doing the global inventory accounting add-in for Dynamics 365 supply chain management. So if you're running inventory and inventory costing, this is just an important feature for those global companies that are running those, because it allows you to run several inventory costing method in different ledgers. So for example, if you were an organization in the US running standard costs, but because of global IFRS requirements, so something wouldn't allow you to run standard costs, you would have to use a different costing method like FIFO or actual cost and so on. This allows you to actually run both inventory and costing methods. So take a look at that if that's something that's relevant for your organization. A public preview in June 18, 2021. So it's something that you can already now start to test out. Okay, next slide, please. Yep, and this is something warehouse related functions. So now you can actually park tasks in the warehouse management mobile app. So that's a very important feature. For example, if you are running in the warehouse, you see that there's no inventory in the slot where you were where you needed to go pick something up. Previously, you would have to actually abandon that work or hold it and look up inventory, something like that, and another warehouse worker could potentially take, that work that you were trying to complete while you had abandoned it. So now you can kind of park an existing task, go look up inventory for where you need to find that that item in the warehouse, and then start working on that task again once you find the correct location in the warehouse, for example. So that's a nice little feature. Park task. Next slide, please. The same here. So this is warehouse management mobile app step instructions. So this actually allows you to put custom instructions for each step or each task in your warehouse. And that's a neat feature that simply will allow workers to ramp up your workers faster by giving them, simple instructions for each task they need to complete on their mobile device screen. So that should help increase productivity by highlighting some of the most important parts of each steps and so on. Okay, next slide, please. And this is just a post on-hand adjustment using codes connected to offset accounts. So now you can, I think you could do this with counting before, but now with the on-hand adjustments, if you need to do, you can provide recent codes, and each of those recent code can have their own offset general ledger account that you can point to, right? If your accountants wanted to have different accounts, depending on different reasons, that could be loss or simply different reasons for why you have to decrement your on-hand inventory, for example. Right. Next slide. Yep. So now we're over to tech tips. So I'll bring it over to you, Ryan, again.
Okay. Thanks, Kenneth. All right. So first tech tip that we have is around using Azure ExpressRoute with Power Platform. And so Azure ExpressRoute has been around for a while, but there's some new guidance in this documentation around using it specifically with the Microsoft Power Platform. If you're not familiar with Azure ExpressRoute, or maybe you've heard of it, the name of the service maybe doesn't quite indicate exactly what it is, but it really supports a private connectivity to services built on top of Microsoft Azure. So things like Microsoft 365, Microsoft Power Platform, Dynamics 365, those kind of things. And so for highly regulated industries such as banking, insurance, government, public sector, there can be concerns about using public available platforms and accessing sensitive data over the public internet. So Azure ExpressRoute helps with that scenario. And so if you're in that scenario, this is specifically using that ExpressRoute with the Microsoft Power Platform. And there's some, like I said, some new good guidance on that if that's something that you want to use. Power Apps portals again, and Power BI integration enhancements. So with some recent portal releases, there's been more support added for Power BI functionalities. So with portal version 9.3.4.x, there's some new features for embed your customers access type, so dashboards and report from Azure Analysis Services using live connections, dashboards, single tile with role-based security, and then dashboards with different data sources having different role-based security. So that was with 9.3.4, and then with 9.3.6, there's also Azure AD guest user support for embed your organization. So a few integration enhancements there for portals and Power BI. So also on the Power Apps portal side, there's some great Power Apps portals tips. The two links here are for a couple of YouTube videos, but they're part of a bigger channel that has a lot of great Power Apps portals tips. You can obviously see this is number 119 and number 120, so there's a lot before that as well. So if you're ramping up on Power Apps portals, these two are great resources, but that whole channel can be a great resource. So definitely check out those videos to get ramped up on that. And Kenneth, back over to you.
Thank you, Ryan. So this is just some of our latest blogs that we have published that I wanted to highlight. So you can see there's two from our colleague Ryan Sanders, where he's talked about why is feature management something I should look at every release. So remember, feature management is where you go and you look at and enable new features. But he actually also talks about in this blog the ability, we have a security role that just allow you to see, to view the feature management. So that's a good suggestion for having your users go in and read about new features, because there's explanation to each feature and what it does. So they can actually just go in and read about the new features without obviously being able to enable anything in your production environment. But that might be a good idea for you guys to look at and give your users access to those and make them aware of that. So that's what that blog post talk about. The other one is with regards to budget planning, that we now add a narrative for your budget planning that you can set up for specifically for public sector organization. That has been a requirement for some time. So Ryan is taking you through that. Next slide, please. And this is just another blog from Saeed, another colleague of ours, where you talk about how you can run the job history cleanup from your staging tables in your data management console. Okay. Next slide, please. Yeah. So this one is simply just for your saved views. There's some improved legal entity support for saved views. So now a view published to a specific legal entity is only ever shown in those legal entities. So there were some before where even though if you selected just one legal entity, you could access it from one of your other legal entities if you had that. But so now that has been set in stone more, where if you publish it to one legal entity, that's the only place where you can see that. If you're not familiar with save views, I encourage you to go in feature management in your test environment and enable and test that out. It's a really, really great feature because it just allows you to manage your personalizations of your sites, where you can save your filters on your different UI inquiry forms and so on, save the filters and apply them to your security roles. So it's a much better way now to handle and manage your different personalizations, since you can add them to a security role. So go look at save views and also the new grid functionality if you haven't done that so far. Next slide, please. All right. I think it's over to you, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks. So a few things on the learning corner. This first one is actually a link to a blog from one of our colleagues, and it's around Power Apps portals and how a customer engineer can help. So this is a bit of a plug for our team. We're all customer engineers here, but one of our colleagues has written up an article here about how our team can really help with Power Apps portals and some different options there. So things like we do have a portal one-day workshop. We also have a longer portal activate engagement that includes the workshop, but it is also followed by 4 days of working with the customer engineer on developing a custom proof of concept in your organization's tenant and business process. We also have an offering around if you need to load test that portal, we have a benchmark assessment. So that article just kind of goes through some of the different offerings and different ways we can help when deploying or configuring that Power Apps portal. This next one is kind of just a list of on-demand videos that around administering apps in Dynamics 365. So if it's something that you're just getting started with, administering Dynamics 365 or Power Platform, or need a refresher or something in that area, there's a link here that includes a nice kind of curated list of videos that you kind of can go through and get a good understanding of what administering apps in Dynamics really means. All right, Kenneth, back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight some of our Microsoft Dynamics 365 Fast Track Tech Talks, the latest one that has been added here. So you can see those are mostly around 1 hour learning sessions that you can go and see as a video. So the first one is the introduction to the batch retrieval feature. So in that tech talk, they'll be discussing the batch retrieval feature that was introduced for batch jobs in finance operation apps. And they'll talk about how you can enable automatic retries on batch jobs when they fail or have some transient failure. So go take a look at that. The next one is around financial reporting, where they'll be discussing the financial reporting setup. And it will also cover some of the technical details around the data mart that the financial reporting sits on top of. So, so if that's relevant to you, you can go and watch that. And the last one is the AX 2012 data upgrade in self-service environment. So that tech talk will be discussing the AX 2012 data upgrade experience in Dynamics 365 self-service environments, where it's using the AX 2012 database upgrade toolkit for Dynamics 365. So, but these are just the 3 latest tech talks that I'm highlighting here. So if you go and click on any of these links here, it will take you to that Fast Track Tech Talks, and so there will be a bunch of different videos and sessions on different topics regarding F&O that you can go look at and see which one is relevant to you. So with that, I'll take it over to you, Ryan.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ryan and Kenneth, for taking time to run over this session, the update briefing session. The blog contains the slides that you saw in the session in PDF format, and it also has the recording of the update briefing in case you wanted to watch it later in detail, or if you wanted to forward it to your colleagues. We would post the recording of this session on the blog. Also, I'd like to take a moment to let you know that I posted a link to a very brief survey on the chat window just now. It is for us to understand if we are providing useful content to you. We want to make sure that your time is spent usefully. So we would like to understand whether the content that you saw in the update briefing is relevant and useful. So it just takes about 2 to 3 minutes, less than 2 minutes to fill out this survey. It has only 3 or 4 questions. We'd be deeply grateful if you could take time to fill out the survey. With that, thank you so much for attending the session, and thank you to all the presenters and moderators. We hope to see you next time. Thank you.